March the 29th, we have the ending of an eclipse cycle in Aries. This is going to be the grand finale or the completion. But I'm going to call this video Stop, Drop, and Roll. For that eclipse that we're having on March the 29th at 9 degrees Aries, is very interestingly a sort of blend of energy to do with fire and water, as this is an eclipse happening in the fire sign of Aries, and it is yet connected to the node of fate in the watery sign of Pisces. And what I like about this cycle of eclipses that occurred in April of 2023 in Aries, total solar, and then the total solar eclipse in April of 2024, and then this final eclipse here, which designates a wave of change in our lives that we haven't seen since 2004 to 2006, is that it's also got the energy of a different element involved on both the first eclipse and the last eclipse. So I'm going to call it Stop, Drop, and Roll. Stop, drop, roll, because I'll explain the way this works for your sign. Now, today's video is not a world astrology eclipse video, and the reason is I've already put that video out 3 weeks ago. I will try to remember to put it in the description box and near the top of the video in the comments, so you can go watch that, covering world events, politics, world events, connected to this eclipse cycle, historically referencing it back to the 60s and to the 2000s and the 80s, the late 80s, so you can make, common sense connections, historical subject matter and your own life. However, this is really focused on elemental energies. What happened in 2023 was the eclipse happened in April, and it happened while we had the node of fate in Taurus, and yet the eclipse in fire. So we have earth and fire blending. That's like a kiln, you know what I mean? Or scorched earth. Then we have the middle eclipse, the total solar eclipse that swathed across the United States and into Texas. Now, that eclipse was happening last April of 2024, and that eclipse was pure fire. And then the last eclipse we have today coming up, well, not today, coming up on the 29th, and recording this for you guys on March the 24th, will be a combination of fire and water. We know what fire and water do, right? I mean, they don't get along. So there's something about this, like putting out the fire, but it's also the energy of moving away from the I am, of independent I am states that Aries is all about, and moving much more toward the I am and I am not, because in Pisces, everything dissolves. And there may be a big dissolving of one's identity in the Stop, Drop, and Roll 3 eclipse cycles. We're going to bring this to your subject of your sign today. No world astrology. Everyone's asked me to make a call on the election in Canada. Because Mark Carney, who took over from Trudeau, when Trudeau resigned, he won the Liberal leadership race for the party. He is an unelected prime minister. He does not have a seat in parliament. He is literally only official once he's officially elected. So we're having that election April 28th, I think is the election day now. It was just called. Mark Carney and his Liberals needed an astrologer on their team. He called an election while Mercury and Venus are retrograde. Mercury is Mr. Ballot Box, and and on the cusp of an eclipse in Aries. And all I can say is that would not have been my best choice for this party to try to pull this one off. It could indicate a change of direction in the sense that right now in the polls, Mark Carney and the Liberals are creeping up neck and neck with the Conservatives, who had a vast majority kind of stature until Trudeau stepped down. And what I think is happening here is that it's going to pull back. The wave of the success they've had is going to pull back. And they called the election on an inauspicious sky with invisible Venus, retrograde, and invisible Mercury, and Venus invisible and retrograde, and an eclipse pending at the end of the week. So it really is, to me, I think, going to be a difficult election for that party, the Liberal Party, to actually win a majority. And I do think that the Conservatives are still going to win, but I think it will be less of a majority or less of a win. But that's my call. But I'll be doing an astrology later. I have both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre's charts. We'll be looking at those together vis-a-vis the Canadian chart and how they intersect each other and who's got more potency in their sky. But we don't have times for those people, so it's not as accurate as I could be. So I am not going to share the charts of the eclipses, and like I had those charts up for you in the longer video that came out 3 weeks ago. Again, you should watch that because I'll cover content I am not going to talk today. This is my eclipse update video on Thursday. It is literally a shorty, it may be an hour altogether, because I want you to get the feeling of the three energies that you've engaged in 2023, 24, 25, and what that means for your sign today. Listening for your sun sign to do with career and purpose, your moon sign to do with home and nest and how you feel about your life, but certainly your rising sign is usually most circumstantially accurate. It represents you coming into this life, being born, and it represents you basically taking that first breath and the Eastern horizon line at the time of birth. If you would like to know how to cast your chart in whole sign houses and also thus discover your rising sign, I have a free 7-minute video tutorial in my description box below. Just hit the more button, scroll all the way down to the bottom where my free gifts, the meanings of the 12 houses PDF, my amazing asteroids course, and how to cast your chart in whole sign houses is down below. All right. Now, I'm going to give you some dates to reflect on, because the past tells us cycles, rinse, repeat, patterns repeat. Not everything is exactly the same, of course, but by listening to the past and past whispering, we get some sense of it. In 1986 and 1987, we had eclipses moving, actually in like 1967, 68 as well, 69. We had Aries eclipses and also Libra eclipses, North Node eclipses through Aries, South Node eclipses through Libra. But we're not going to talk about that time. But yes, we are living through very similar times where we saw MLK and RFK unalived. So we could see more of that in politics this year. But in 1986, in April, we had an eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries. And in 1987, on March 29th, which is our eclipse coming up again, but in March 29th of 1987, we also had an eclipse at 8 degrees of Aries. And that was 2 Aries solar eclipses in the 86-87 cycle. However, in 2004 to 5, we had a cycle that was far more similar, far more reminiscent of this cycle that we're in now. And I'll tell you why. In 2004, April, we had an eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries. In 2023, April, we had an eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries. In both of those eclipses in 2004 and 2023, those solar eclipses occurred with a node of fate in the sign of Taurus. Therefore, we had a blend of 2 houses in your chart and 2 elements. In April of 2005, on April the 8th, we had an eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries. The node of fate, North Node, was also in the sign of fire, the sign of Aries. It was a pure initiation, trial by fire eclipse. Well, guess what? Same thing. In 2024, we had an eclipse on April the 8th at 19 degrees of Aries. Exactly the same story, guys. And then we had in 2006, on March the 29th, an eclipse at 8 degrees of Aries with a node of fate in Pisces. Well, the eclipse was happening in Aries, one sign over. Same thing this time around on March the 29th at 9 degrees of Aries. A small difference here, guys. We have a similar eclipse. So this is going to remind you in your own life more easily of things that happened between April of 2004 and March of 2006. Although when we talk about an eclipse on March of 2006, you can really say that is in effect through until March of 2007. Therefore, what we're about to talk about is things you felt going on in your life, 2004 through to spring of 2007. And how you had a stop, drop, and roll, or a 3-part story of eclipse connected to fire and earth, fire, and fire and water. And this is also going to be all about the 2 houses that are emerging for you in this new eclipse. So listen for sun, moon, or rising, try all 3. This is a quickie. This is just an update. Now I'm recording on Monday, and I dropped a video about the Mercury Cazimi, and I've just discovered so many times that when I do any videos on Mercury, they sink in the algorithm. Like, but this is a synodic recycle of Mercury, set of my Mercury. It's not about this week ahead. is about how Mercury's cazimi in the heart of the sun on the day I'm recording this indicates what's going to happen in your life as a reset button through to May the 30th. That's a synodic cycle of Mercury in its conjunction with the sun from a retrograde position. If you want to go ahead and go back and give that poor video some love, okay, it's drowning in people don't care about Mercury kazimis or something. And so it would be helpful if you could give it some love, because it's got like less viewers are watching this, 11% less viewers. And like, I don't know, you can't always win every one of them, right? All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to show you the chart. We're going to go through each sign. I'm going to riff on what does it mean that you've been going through this 3-year story that's a lot like 2004, 2005, then the last eclipse in 2007, April, or the end of March, that sprung through changes till 2007. And so I want you to use it as a way to make sense of your life. So let me go ahead and grab the Aries first, and we'll get rolling in an update eclipse. This is just a little bit of a reminder, and plus it sends you hopefully back to the deeper dive with political matters and stuff that was recorded 3 weeks ago, plus a much more in-depth look at your sign. Now, when I go ahead and show you this eclipse, there's a lot of planetary muck here, so let me clear it up. First of all, we do not need this stuff. It was all from a client chart. Let's clear the decks, and then let me move you to Aries. And we'll move ourselves into the right date, which will be useful, which is the 29th of the month. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but ideally during an eclipse, it would be a good idea, in general, using the ancient wisdom, not to look at it or try to look at it, or, you know, although this is a partial eclipse and it's not that easy to see anyway, and I cover, I think, where it's visible in my last video, it's not so much about, you know, oh, the superstition of it. Well, I guess it is. But I like to err on the side of safety. All right. Last time I watched a total lunar eclipse in 2016 or 17, whatever, in Vancouver, Canada, that was not a good several months that followed. Okay. Because you want to be sattvic, calm, chill, don't leave food out, try not to fast, be super in your spiritual essence, and do some chanting or something, light some incense. But okay, this is what we're going to do. March the 29th, 2025. There will be an eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries, and the moon is going to be right on top of the sun. That's called a new moon, right? But the new moon is so close to the nodes of fate, in this case, the north node, that it creates an eclipse, because when we have a solar eclipse and the sun and the moon are together and brand new, and there is this energetic of the proximity to the node of fate, the sun is being eclipsed, right? The sun is being eclipsed. And a solar eclipse, as the sun is being dimmed from our viewpoint, is often connected to political matters, is often connected to leaders, especially in Aries, exalted leaders like Donald Trump. I covered this in my last video, but it also impacts our lives in a kind of new beginning and a reset button. Something wants to reset is what it means. We want to do something new. We want to make a reset in our lives happen. And it's going to take up to a year to see the full energy of what it's giving us. So don't expect it to happen all at once. We have a minor asteroid in there. I'll take her out. That's the Muse, Urania. Goodbye, Urania, who's often involved with UFO events. Okay. Astronomy, astrology, and other things. So let's get talking about this guy. And I don't want to start with Aquarius. I want to start with Aries. The eclipse is happening, by the way, pretty well around. If I take it back by a few minutes, I know some of you want to know. Inquiring minds want to know exactly when. It's at 9 degrees and 00 minutes. So it's very, very 9 degree. Don't forget, as I mentioned, we had the same energy at 8 degrees on March 29th in 2006. And so there's a lot of similarity to the year that followed that eclipse in your life. But more broadly speaking, 2004's April eclipse, 2005 April solar eclipse, and then March 29th of 2006 are the most redolent or similar to this cycle that we're currently in. There we go. Get it down to 0. So the eclipse is going to happen in Vancouver, Canada. That's like Los Angeles PDT, Pacific Daylight Savings or whatever time zone. It's most equivalent to Los Angeles already. And so in Los Angeles at around 4 a.m. in the morning, this eclipse is exactly happening. Okay, 3:59 and 12 minutes. So 12 seconds. So 4 in the morning on March the 29th. This is the eclipse. And then adjust for your time zone. Now, if you look at the bottom of the sky, and you'll see that I just happened to actually cue it for Capricorn. That's where this eclipse is happening. And yes, we have Chiron there. Did we have Chiron here before? Yes. 1967, 68, actually 68, 69. In that 67, 68, 69 cycle, I believe it was March of 1968, Chiron ingressed into Aries. And of course, we had eclipses there, and we see a lot of similarities to the eclipses we saw in 2024. It's like Nixon lost power. The VP for Lyndon Baines Johnson stepped down. His VP ran. They were Democrats. They lost against Nixon, who promised to stop the war in Vietnam. It's just like the whole Biden-Trump story all over again. There's so many similarities, it's not funny, including a DNC, a Chicago convention, including assassination of RFK and MLK. We already had an attempted attempted unaliving for Donald Trump already. All right, so moving on. Try not to say these words are algorithmic potholes. Potholes. All right, here we have it. People don't even say, like, we have to have code words these days. Yes, YouTube, but it's better than some other censorious places. I'll say that much. Facebook used to be way worse than YouTube has ever been. All right, Aries, sun, moon, and rising. We're just going to give you an update here. Go watch the longer video. Check the description box below and my comments, where I will pin my longer video to this storyline for more depth about this eclipse. I want to get the stop, drop, and roll in here. What do I mean? Well, just like in 2004, 5, and 2006, spring, what happened is you had an eclipse in 2004. It was an eclipse in which the node of fate was sitting in the sign of Taurus right over here. Well, the eclipse happened at 29 degrees of Aries. Well, of course, it indicated changes of identity that wanted to unfold between April of 23 to April of 24. That was something about your finances in connection with your identity. And in that regard, how you redefined your I am, your self-worth, your self-value, your resources, your money, some of you, even your food style or things that you ingest. These things were in play as you were negotiating the April of 23 to April of 24 window of 12 months. And, I'll speak to that as an Aries sun and moon. That was when I began to really focus on my business, my YouTube business and my channel, and growing this business. And I put a lot of effort into it. I also decided to incorporate, and I also decided to take better care of my dietary style and all of those things. So it really is that wave of energy about the earth and the fire and connecting the two dots, where you were working like somebody with either scorched earth or a kiln to change your identity in relationship to your self-worth, your earnings, your resources, and your facial appearance and your dietary style. But now this eclipse, and if you think back to 2004, April to 2005, you may be able to connect similar dots. In the second wave of energy, it was all initiation by fire. Total eclipse happened April the 8th in Aries. Massive burst of energy, like in 2005's spring eclipse, into an initiation by fire on fire, new beginnings, fresh starts, bold go-getting, new definitions of independence and I amness, and finding who you really are as you expand that identity into some destined new form. And then we move to this new section. Now, this is you in water, fire, water. Hot water, are we in hot water? Or is the water cooling the heat of what's been going on? Does it subdue the intensity? Does this make us nice and warm? But what it is that now we're moving into a nodal energy in the 12th house, where we're having a change of our identity, still ongoing, destined shifts. Well, it could be, and a lot like 2006 March out a year, it could be a lot to do with where you want to focus on your spiritual life, how you might want to tend your soul tending in the 12th house, how you might want to retreat or hibernate or be in solitude. Maybe even focus on your addictions or your undoing and self-undoing habits and patterns in order to shift your identity. The 12th house can generate revenue from distant shores and far off places through marketplaces there, but you can also be tempted to perhaps spend some time in far off distant shores under the influence of this particular last eclipse. This is different than in 2006 because we didn't have Mars trundling through the 4th house, and therefore this energy opens up a possibility of you having some kind of change of home coming off of this eclipse as well. And it doesn't have to be a far off land, just the words change of home. And I've already been given notice that my landlady's selling this place a few days before this eclipse, a week a bit before. You can feel the eclipse energy kicking in up to a month or so before the eclipse. And so it may already occur to you that you may have to make some changes in your home, or who lives in your home, or change your home. But I want you really to draw your attention to the water. You know, the waters of Pisces are deeply, deeply spiritual and transcendent and oceanic and wise. And, you know, and it's about belief and hope and faith. And Jupiter, he owns this real estate, and he wants to incite that energy with this eclipse in your life as you make a change of self-identity connected to new beliefs, new hopes, new forms of spiritual awareness. And with Jupiter, the teacher in the third house, some of you may take on a teacher or a new teaching, because the third house is a learning house, or travel for spiritual questing in the year that follows this eclipse. But if you learn from a teacher, you're learning something that's deeply meaningful to your soul, and it can also lead to some new expressions in writing, social media, and online creative projects where Jupiter is sitting. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. So yes, go back to 2004, 5, and 6, as eclipses happen in the exact same sequence and roughly at the exact same place. The first eclipse we had this time in 2023, of course, was activating a fire eclipse in Aries. Well, the node of fate was still traveling through Taurus. The North Node was still trying to expand your sense of self in a destined way. Well, at the same time, the eclipse opened up a portal to the 12th house. The 12th house is your own worst enemy's self. The part of you that sabotages your life, has patterns and habits that come from ancestral and childhood wounds and past lives. It's also a house of retreat and solitude. And there's a very strong possibility that a lot of Tauruses moved into more of a place of solitude between the time of 23 April and 2024 April. You might also have been really looking deeply into matters to do with addictive substance use and addiction, and asking yourself if there's any time like the present to quit, because the first house node is in the house of your body, where the actual eclipse is in the house of things that could impede the wellness of that body. Now, this eclipse that you have right now, and then the middle eclipse, of course, in 2023 was full on fire, in the fire of initiation, in the heat and the burning of fire on fire. Did you really go into deeper dives into your own self-undoing, sabotaging habits, behaviors, thoughts, and addictions? You might have been faced with them head on, having to confront them. You might have had to confront things to do with your spiritual belief. You may have definitely to confront things to do with your ancestral line. And maybe a few of you also had the trial of fire by people in your life in hospital settings as well. That is the meaning of the 12th house, and it's a house of mental health institutions as well. So hospitals and illnesses and mental health illnesses, usually people you know, not you. This house is, you know, other people's, you know, illnesses, and you're encountering it more or less. So that was the trial of fire on the 23rd, 2023 April eclipse. And now we're finished that. And here comes a new eclipse. This eclipse is happening at 9 degrees of Aries, but the most important part is that the node of fate is in the 11th house, and that is a water sign. And there is a destined desire now to move toward new goals, new dreams, and new visions for your career. Some of you, if you were old enough, may have had the same experience in the eclipse of March of 2006. And you would have added a year to see what happened. But if you're younger and that doesn't make sense, you know, expanding long-range goals and dreams to a destined direction, destined shifts in your earnings and how you make money in your career, but also destined shifts and change are emerging in your social groups and friendship circles as you adopt a new crew of destined friends, coming though off the repair of the soul work you've been doing in the 12th house. For example, say you went sober, maybe you're going to make, and you mentioned you people who are sober friends instead of hanging out with the booze hounds. I mean, that's just a simple example. So your career changes that you might want to make now are because you went into a deep dive into your own unconscious ways of maybe holding your own self back from what you truly desire, because the North Node of Fate in the 11th house is expanding what you actually desire in this lifetime and allowing for destined shifts around that as well. If this was my sky and I was one of you, which I'm not, I'd also say lean on allies, benefactors, and friends with favors in high places to help you in anything that you're trying to get off the ground. Mars is the ruler of the actual eclipse, and he says maybe you would like to move to a new neighborhood, maybe you'd like to change your job into some new position, some new role in marketing and selling or online world. And with Jupiter also as the Lord of the North Node, he wants to make you more money and more prosperity, but you have to change your long-range goals and dreams in order to do that. If you want a deeper dive into this eclipse covering more variables, please go watch my original longer video that came out 3 weeks ago, pinned to the comments, and it will also be in the description box. Thanks, Taurus. Good luck with your next year as this firewater eclipse unfolds. Well, if you're a Gemini, sun, moon, or rising sign, you went through an eclipse cycle in 2004, 5, and 6. It's very much an identical cycle as this one. The very first eclipse this time in 2023 also included a node of fate expanding, North Node of destiny, the Taurus part of your sky. Well, the fire eclipse occurred in the 11th house. The North Node would be expanding back then, April of 23 to 24. Your own groups of friends, social circles, allies and benefactors, and career gains, 11th house expansion, but also pulling energy from solitude, aloneness, introspection, spiritual depth, and an investigation of the things that you do that are your own undoing. And that can be anything. I always talk about it to be like if you had your own worst enemy and you were it, so some of us eat the wrong foods, drink the wrong drinks, smoke the wrong things, that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just a belief we're not good enough or we're not, worthy enough. It's also very much like going to an ashram, that 9th, 12th house. And so you might have found 23 to 24, you were really spiritually awakening, going inward, looking at spiritual depth in your own life, even as your career ambitions and dreams were changing, expanding, and growing, and along with those social circles as well. Now, when we got to the eclipse of April of 2023, we're in the fire, nothing but fire. Someone get me a fire hose, right? Pure fire, total eclipse, just like we had in 2005, April. And in the year that followed this eclipse, then and now, right? So 24 to 25, right? This last year, you might have really intensified your earnings and your gains and your rewards of your career. More money, more perks, more recognition, more influence. And you may also have found that same cycle expanding your friendship circles or changing your friendship circles in destined ways. Old friends leaving, new friends coming in, social groups of belonging becoming meaningful, and having destined benefits from allies and friends who are like an elder sibling. And an elder sibling is also this part of your chart if you have one, and more focus on that sibling, but getting some favors from friends in high places. But because it's double fire, right, it's initiatory, it's purging, it's purifying energy. There's also the idea that you will have experienced some kind of deep transformation and rebirth and initiation of new visions, new long-range goals, and new long-range dreams for your life. And because also this is just pure fire, right? Some things may have burned away, as well as new ones may have emerged as an initiative and new beginnings and bold ideas. With this last eclipse, similar to the March of 2006 eclipse, we have an eclipse in Aries at 9 degrees, but we have the node of fate, North Node, in the 10th house. You could go back, and compare 2006 March to 2007 and ask yourself how you extended, expanded, and grew your career and reputation. 10th house matters. Well, at the very same time, you were actually pulling from that fire of the 11th house. It's like you rearranged your visions, goals, and dreams and plans. And now you're going to be able to have a destined initiatory activation of these stories. That's what I have for you on this one. So you can really see yourself now lifting up to new heights of career recognition and success, but coming off of the refinement of what you've been working on, but also in this case, allies, benefactors, and friends, people in high places, people who want to help you. Mars is suggesting changes in the earnings from this eclipse, new ways of making money, cutting out old ways of making money. For example, I have a progressed Gemini sun. No, progressions are not as good as your natal sky. And what I'm doing is no longer probably seeing clients. So I've been phasing client work out for the last year. I want to write a book for my agent on astrology, and I really don't have time if I'm doing clients as well. Something's got to give. So that would be what examples are. What can you cut away from your money and earnings? What can you quit? What can you let go of so that you can increase your reputation, success, and change the way the money comes to you? Not by what you add, but by what you eliminate. Also, we can say, well, Jupiter is ruling that whole darn 10th house and he's witnessing it from your sign of you. You're damn lucky, so damn lucky. You know, you have the grace of Jupiter through till June the 9th. And as he's looking up at the sky and he watches this eclipse involving the node in the house of your reputation, and of course, the expansion of your influence through the eclipsing of the 11th house. You may lose a friend off of this, or maybe a movement away from a friend. Anytime eclipses happen in the house of friends, one of the houses of friends, we could lose friends, but we also gain destined new friends as well. So there's two sides of that coin, but those friends that we get, the new ones, will help us exceed our expectations in the year that follows in our reputation and career. Good luck with that. If you like a longer version of this delineation for your sign that covers details I won't cover here, please go watch the longer video. It will be pinned to the description box below the video, and that's hit the more button, and also in the comments under the video. All right, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign. First of all, wow. Back in 2004, 5, and 6, we had these spring eclipses in Aries, and it's just like the same game all over again with some significant changes. The first eclipse we had here this time in 2023 was pulling the Earth out of your 11th house and activating the 10th. For a lot of you, it could look like an escalation of career gains in a sudden, exciting, and dramatic way. That's more money coming through your career, more earnings, more rewards. That's very Taurus Earth, and it lights up the expansion of the 10th house. And then as we moved through that energy, we move into the idea of a double initiation, just like we had in 2005. And we had it again in 2024, a pure fire total eclipse happening in your 10th house of your sky. Now, a solar eclipse in the 10th house can eclipse the career direction or path. You may have been adding a lot more money to the story or success or rewards or influence, and then all of a sudden we have a total solar eclipse, purging, purifying, initiating, trial by fire. And between that eclipse and this one that we're having in March, some of you may have begun to rethink your career, especially with Chiron there, maybe wanting to move in another direction. However, a total solar eclipse up here can, with the North Node, could have escalated more and more the success and the gains and the increase of worldly success in career as well during that time. It's also the fact that Chironic wound was being eclipsed in April may have led you to really eclipse a wound around meaningful work and purpose. As we move to, which we did not have, by the way, in 2005, April. Now in 2006, we have 2006, just like this eclipse. In 2025, this April out a year, 2006 out a year. Your elemental water is activated in the 9th house, and the 9th house is the house of Dharma, meaning, purpose, spiritual belief and philosophy, but it's being aligned with one's compass point of true north to navigate purpose and meaning in life. And that has been activated in context to your career. And if you do not find purpose and meaning in the career you're in, then for some of you, you can change that. You may change that by going back to school or going to school or getting new education. You may change that just by making decisions that you know how you need to align and you choose to do so. Jupiter ruling that North Node in the 12th house is definitely pulling you towards a deeper spiritual connection, and learning, teachers and teachings and schooling are very indicated from Jupiter's position. Now, some of you may also move your career path towards writing, communicating, publishing, or elements connected to foreign countries. And I think with Mars being the ruler of the 10th house eclipse itself, he's giving you the power to make decisions of great potency and consequence, because now you are, with a big sword in your hand or an axe, able to eliminate from your life all the things that do not allow for a alignment with career and purpose and success. And Mars being here to be your ally in the sign of you is a useful feature, because your decision-making power is on steroids, your action taking as well. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you're watching the premiere. If you're not, do that too. And don't forget, these eclipses, there's a longer video. Check my description box and they're pinned to the comments. Go watch the second video for more depth. Hello, Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. In this mini update video about the eclipses, we're about to talk about the idea that you had eclipses in 2004, 5, and 6 along the same storyline, and it's back again. This is to say that we're repeating history in some ways. And the eclipse that we had for you back in 2023 is similar to 2004. We had a North Node in your 10th house of career. Well, the eclipse occurred in the 9th. There may have been an expansion of career, while at the same time you were also rearranging the laundry of your 9th house, relationship to father figure, spirituality, purpose and meaning, as well as education. As we went into the next eclipse in 2024, total solar eclipse, just like in 2005 in April, the year that followed each of these was and is all about, first of all, healing a chironic wound with father figures, blasting through some kind of situation that is about finding that sense of purpose and meaning. Some of you, it could have involved a movement toward education, especially in academic or higher educational settings. And for others, it might have involved travel to distant shores and lands. A lot of you would be looking at the dharma of your life more deeply and saying, am I really on purpose or not? For goodness sakes. When I say father figures, it could even be your spouse if that you look up to them because they're older, or a father figure. So don't just think about dad and granddad, etc. Now, this next eclipse that's happening is a really interesting blend of the water of the 8th house. This happened in 2006, March out of year. Now it's back again this March 29th out of year. The water of the 8th house. So now this is spousal shared resources and assets. This is money from investments. This is money from, insurance payouts, other people's money that you get your hands on, inheritances as well. So that kind of money is being influentially activated for you with an increase of that money, destined worldly increase in that money. But at the same time, asking you to look at 9th house meanings. For example, courts and judges and legal matters are 9th house. And the 8th house is shared resources. So there may be inheritance disputes, money sharing in a divorce settlement, or sharing other people's resources in some fundamental way. Mars would suggest that if you want to do that, it may involve breaking through old karmic patterns in order to succeed in life, as he's cutting through your 12th house. And Jupiter, who owns the real estate of the 8th house, can also suggest, hey, it might be that you're going to receive favors from friends in high places that benefit you in your financial means during this next year, because Jupiter sort of bakes in people in places of power can support you. It does look good on your finances. There's no doubt about it. Mars does rule your home, and some of you may change your home and do so in a way that's financially resourceful and helps you heal some father wounds at the same time. Don't forget to check the description box below and my comments for the longer and more in-depth video. This is a quickie update video only. This is just a quickie. And plus, my hair is driving me nuts. Don't tell me, by the way, not to fiddle with my hair. I'm autistic spectrum disorder. It's called stimming. Today, I'm actually not stimming. What I'm doing today is my hair should have been shampooed, and I didn't. And so it's driving me nuts. Okay, I'm going to say it's a typical bad hair day. And I don't know what to do with my hair. All right. Now, Virgo. I tell you my problems every time. Virgo. We had eclipses 2004, 5, and 6, just like this. And they're also involving earth and water and fire. Let's go back to talk about this eclipse of 2023. North Node eclipse happening where the node of fate was in your ninth house and the eclipse was in your eighth house. Some Virgos may have had massive changes in their relationship to other people's money connected to ninth house things, judges, courts, travel, foreign lands, third marriage partners. And the money changes from 23 to 24's eclipse may have indicated an alignment or a collaboration, or not a getting into more of a ease and flow around money you may share with other people. Now, that could have included the ability to pay off a debt or eliminate a debt or change your financial structures around bank loans and mortgages. But there was that vibe going on there, especially if it required legal paperwork, etc. And energetically, you're pulling like a kiln, right? Earth and fire, trying to forge or form something new in your financial structures connected to money you share with that spouse or the bank or your shareholder in a company or inheritances, etc. Well, now we move into the eclipse of 2004, total fire eclipse in the eighth house. It lasted a year. It's coming to a close now. We had a total fire eclipse here in 2005 that lasted a year as well in the spring. So you want to compare that if you can. There is like a purification, trial by fire, an initiation with fire on fire, total eclipse. You may have come to a massive turning point regarding how you share the money with somebody as significant to you. Again, investments, but also inheritance monies, also shared spousal, long-term committed partner resources and assets. Virgo girlfriend of mine, her guy and her decide to meld their finances together and buy a house and stuff like that. So there's that kind of thing you might be going through. And also, it could be very inheritancy, right? Just going to say, anytime you have a total eclipse in the eighth house, there may be some financial inheritance stories going on in the sky as well. And that eclipse has come to an end, and we've moved on to the new eclipse on March 29th. On March 29th, the eclipse is going to be again in that financial resources house, but it's going to activate the seventh house. And this is the house of your significant other or your business partnerships or your clients and audience and marketplace. Now, if you're in a business where you sell and market, or you have a client or audience or a public, it could there's an intensification, North Node eclipses through this part of your chart to expand your influence and worldly success or bring destined others into your life. But on the other hand, an eclipse can also eclipse something. And so even though the eclipse is not actually in Pisces, this last Aries eclipse, it still bleeds through to the place where eclipses have begun since September. If you're in a relationship that is not solid, this could be an eclipsing of the relationship and a need for you to work out the financial resources in an end of a relationship. If the relationship is solid, it can go the other way. Saturn's doing the good housekeeping seal of approval. Is this relationship going to last? If so, then we're going to work on the financial long picture together, resources we share and what we want to do with that. I will say with Juno, the goddess of contracts in the fourth house, a few Virgos will be looking at this March 29th eclipse as an opportunity for shared resources around rental property opportunities or purchases of homes or sale of homes. So these things are up for you in context to those variables. Last thing I want to say is it's a rare event for you to have Saturn and the North Node coming together in your seventh house in mid-April. Be aware of that. Beware the odds of that. That can be very challenging on a relationship. Happened in the 1850s. So also tread carefully in mid-April. Just a tip for the Virgos there. Or your partner may be going through something very difficult in their life, April 14th to the 21st, when it's all very active. Just a heads up. All right, we're going to just say, if you want to get a much deeper dive into your sign for this eclipse, I probably covered asteroids as well. Please go back and watch the longer video that I put out 3 weeks ago. I'll pin it to the comments and in the description box under this video. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. This is a quickie. Let's roll. Number one. We're trying to say that history repeats, and you've had the eclipses here in an exact pattern, April of 2004, April of 2005, and March of 2006. The same things are happening all over again. So number one, the eclipse that we had in 2023, like 2004, was an eclipse in Aries, which is your seventh house of business and love partnerships, connected to the house of death, the north node in Taurus. Well, certainly is obvious. It could have eclipsed a relationship, the end of a marriage, the end of a business partnership, alliance, the end of a relationship with someone significant in your life. And it may also involve business partners, especially because of the activation of the house of shared business resources, but also long-term love relationships. If you did not eclipse out of a relationship, like to say nothing happened, right? That's fine. Then it means you might have met some destined people that's deeply connected to the very karmatic eighth house that came into your life as business, love, partnerships, or significant new relationships coming off of that eclipse in April of 23 to 24. In April of 24, we had a fire eclipse, pure and simple and total in the seventh house. Now, if there was a relationship needing to end, it would have, but if it didn't end, it expanded, it grew, and it got bigger. It found new ground to stand on, basically, okay? North Node expands the energy of the relationship and asks for you to grow a bigger pot for that business or love relationship to grow in. Or if you have audience, marketplace, and clients between 24 and 25, the fire energy heated it up and you expanded your range of reach in the marketplace for the work you do in the world. And if you had any legal contracts that you didn't want to stick to last year, April 24 to 25, you may have broken those legal entanglements or contracts were broken. That would have been a normal outcome as well. This time around, just like in 2006 March at a year, this eclipse is doing something similar. We have a North Node eclipse in the sign. We have a North Node eclipse in Aries with the North Node in the sign of Pisces. That's your seventh house, sixth house axis. Could easily have looked like a massive disruption that was happening 2006 to 7 in your work, in your job, in your career. It could happen again. You may find yourself moving towards new career stuff, especially with Mars in the 10th house. Quit your job, change your job, get a new job, get fired from your job for something better to happen. Or with Jupiter protecting things from the ninth house as he looks at the sixth house, any career and job changes are dharmic, destined, meant to be, and move you into a direct alignment with your deepest purpose. And some of you who quit jobs, end jobs, or release jobs may even go back to school and study something as a result of ending a career path or a work path in this eclipse. Now, this is happening a month before and up to a year after this eclipse. A Libra rising girlfriend just got laid off of her job. I had dinner with her last week. It's perfectly this eclipse, okay? And so she's experiencing exactly what we're talking about. But you can also just quit your job, it's up to you. Mars is a ruler of your money house and he's earnings house and he's in the 10th house. He wants a change of way of money making. He's trying to get you to do something different. Yes, I can't believe I'm getting through this in time, but I have to go out with my girlfriend to look at a property with her. And I've got not enough time to do it if I don't keep going at a very good clip. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness as I talk fast. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. You can't go wrong, guys. It's just destiny. I'd go back to compare in the past, and in 2004, 5, and 6 eclipse cycles in Aries, solar eclipses are the same story again, 2023, 4, and 5. So in 2023, the eclipse occurs. It happens in Aries, but the node's in the marriage house. Well, it would have stressed out your marriage. It would have stressed out your marriage connected to work or health matters. Maybe even your significant other went through a health challenge. Maybe a long-term committed business or love partnership wobbled a bit between 23 and 24 based on that eclipse. If that relationship was meant to end, it would have, because it's very karmic axis where the sixth house is. But the node of fate was trying to grow a bigger pot for that relationship to grow in. And if you grew a bigger pot and expanded it, like getting married or engaged or moving in together or having a baby, that would have been a good call off that eclipse cycle that was going through your sky back then. But when I look at this eclipse now, and then after that in 2024, just like in 2005 at a year, we had a total fire eclipse, in pure Aries fire, in the work house, in the health house, in the karmic debts house, and in the debts house. Some of you may have encountered the potential to eliminate a debt, literally, like pay down a mortgage, pay off a debt. Some of you may also have incurred a debt, expanded your indebtedness, have more debt in your on your credit cards than you did before. Some of you may have had destined shifts regarding your health and changes and improving your health with Chiron there to heal the wound of your health. And some of you may have had massive and destined shifts in your work situation, because of that pure eclipse. And it's still kind of waning now as we move into the March 29th eclipse. But go back to see if 2005 and 6 made changes in that part of your chart as well. Also, the death of pets. My son's a Scorpio rising, and the beloved family dog at 18 years old or whatever died during the wave of the 24 to 25 eclipse. And that's because your 6th house is the house of pets, and an eclipse is there often eclipse the life of a pet. Now, when we move into this eclipse, it is still in the workhouse, still in the karmic debts and real debts, still in the health and pets part of the sky, but it's moving into the water energy with the North Node in procreation, creation, muse, entrepreneurship, artistic inspiration, fun, joy, play, pleasure, sexuality, and romance. If you're single, you could meet somebody in a work setting. If you're not single, you could increase the fun, play, and pleasure you have in your romantic life. Well, the way Mars is saying it, because it's still connected to the 6th house, you might find work that you enjoy. You might create a new job. You might find a new path in work, especially because Mars is sitting up at the top of the sky as your ruler. He's in the 9th house of Dharma, flowing to the 5th house of Dharma. You might be looking at, in the year ahead, changing your career path to something more in alignment with what you think is meaningful and uses your talents and gifts and brings you joy. Certainly, you could also have children off of this eclipse. There's no doubt about that. That could be another occurrence. One of the things I want to say is that Jupiter is looking on from the house of inheritance, and with Pluto in the 4th house, some of you are still under the inheritance transit through until at least June. Okay, early June. And so because of that, we still want to see a possible elimination of debt. North Node expands the house of good fortune. That includes money luck. So you may have a lucky break financially, a chunk of money coming in the next year, whether it's inheritances, a stock that pays off, some kind of kickback on the taxes, but it's enough to really help you eliminate some financial debt if that's something you need to do. And if you're an artist or a creative, you could have some really great work as a creative, artistic, entrepreneurial person, be very successful in the 12 months that follow. Go look at my longer video where I covered more in depth and more detail about this and different angles. I'll pin that longer video put out 3 weeks ago to the comments and in the description box under the video. Well, let's get going, Sagittarius. There is an energetic shift here because we're going through an eclipse cycle that we had in 2004, 2005, and 2006. Well, it's back again, 2023, 4, and 5. Well, the eclipse that happens here in 2023, which is like the one in 2004, is an Aries eclipse in your 5th house, but connected to the 6th house. And the 6th house is work. The North Node was trying to expand your livelihood, your work, your health, your pets, your rental opportunities. Well, at the same time, the eclipse was happening in the 5th house of creativity and children. Now, children is important here because it could have been a simple situation with a rental property and a child, pets and children, but also romance and creativity. And there's an expansion of your 5th house that's been ongoing: sexuality, romance, and creativity under investigation. Now, we had a total solar eclipse, and it was pure fire in 2024, April. That's the one that's winding down. Remember, stop, drop, roll. Initiation energy. Something has to happen. Are you making a baby book, a baby? Are you making creative projects work? Are you starting an entrepreneurial business? Are you meeting a destined soulmate love story? Are you having a massive amount of focus on one of or more of your children as destined change factors are happening with them, about them, or for them? Okay, so I have, a lot of things that could happen in that part of the sky for you. You could heal a wound with an estranged child, and you may be healing a wound around love and sexuality and romance off that eclipse. And maybe you did the same thing in 2005. Now we move away from the purity of the 5th house, which is also a Dharma house, to move into more alignment with your purpose. And we move in gifts and talents. So we move into the 4th house. The fourth house is where the node is as we have the eclipse on March the 29th. And this means that things can change your home life significantly. Now, this is happening anyway because of eclipses in Pisces that are starting to fulfill themselves. But it's this kind of bridge between the worlds of watery Pisces and fiery Aries. Are you going to kind of gently cool things down to move to a new home as a result of this? Some of you will in the next year. But if you do, it's because of your children, your romantic love partner, or a creative spirit, or entrepreneurial stuff, or a dharmic energy. And with Jupiter looking on from the seventh house, there may be changes in your home life connected to committed long-term love and romance, whether it's because of initiations or endings. Either is possible in the next year. And with Mars cutting through the eighth house, there's definitely some possibility of buying and selling home, changing your home because of property sales and purchases, or even rentals, actually. And that change may also have to connect to separation in relationship and who gets what. If that doesn't happen and you're single, then you may just be looking at how to work with money resources that you have, investments, 401k, and matters to do with how you wish to design or change or renegotiate the homestead. Because ultimately, if you move your home in the next year, it's because you're moving towards a place of authentic inspiration, enthusiasm, and joy. That's the reason for the move, as well as perhaps because of a romantic love relationship beginning or ending. To learn more about this in more depth, please check out my description box and my pinned comments for a link to the much longer video. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, first of all, we have a big energy here of repeating 2004, 5, and 6. And so here we go in 2023, an eclipse to the fourth house with the node in the fifth. In 2023 to 24, a change of home because of a romantic love relationship or a child situation or an entrepreneurial opportunity. That's what it means. Then we move into the pure burning fire total eclipse of 2005. Don't forget, go back to 2004, and then now this is 2005, and see if there's any kind of comparison. In 2005, just like in 2024, total eclipse, total solar, full fire, nodal, Aries, and it's like, okay, you could have been working through and burning through ancestral karma, family of origin, trauma, and pain, stuff to do with your, wounded mother relationship. Or you may have easily been changing your home again, or expanding your home, or adding to your home. And actually, North Node means foreign place. So changing your home to a foreign place even. Now, you may have already begun that in the earlier eclipse, and it's just a continuation of the same old story. That is a strong possibility as well. But whatever you were doing, as this eclipse intensified the fourth house, was also eclipsing the chironic wound to where do I belong? Where's my true home? That many Capricorns have felt since 2019. And a total healing of the mother wound, and mother wounds, materia, matter, mother, all connect to money. So by healing that, you're healing money wounds as well. Now, that is coming to a close. And on March the 29th, at 8 degrees of Aries, is an eclipse that's going to be just like 2006, in that you have an expansion of the third house with a shift in the fourth. If you haven't changed homes at any of these eclipses yet, then you will change a home connected to travel, siblings, uncles, aunts, cousins, nieces, and nephews. Mars says it could also involve changes of home connected to travel, but also to relationships and cutting, severing, and ending them. So because your marriage ends or you change your relationship conditions, you might have to change where you live. And Jupiter's witnessing from the sixth house, bringing potential opportunity in this eclipse to get a work or employment or job opening of some sort that allows for a change of home, but that also may involve the need to travel, or a job opportunity involving marketing and selling or online stuff, but also maybe for some reason a need to change your home along with that. And that's what I've got for you. If I was in this chart for a Capricorn and all of that, I probably would say as well, Mars exalts you, but he's busy slicing through the significant other house. So your ability to decide and choose and act in ways of autonomy and sovereignty have been compromised by Mars's traveling through your seventh house ever since January, and before that, September and October. And only guidance I have for all Capricorns is, do you know what you really want? Or are you riding the wave of other people's agendas right now? So I really want you to sit with that question. This eclipse will ask you to make decisions as well, but sometimes they'll be made for you if you don't really sit with what you want first. That's what I'm seeing in this chart regarding home, love, anything, significant other, and business partnerships. Oh my God, I'm going to finish on time. This is a miracle, a miracle. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. First of all, we have eclipses, just like 2004, 5, and 6, all coming back again in the same way in Aries. The first eclipse then of 2023, like 2004, is activating a change in your domestic life, your home where you live, connected to third house matters. Third house is neighbors and neighborhood. You probably had a change of neighborhood coming off the April eclipse of 23. I am an Aquarius rising, and I moved from the West End in Vancouver to something called Fairview. So there was an eclipse that initiated change of where I lived. And that change occurred before the eclipse, as eclipses can often activate shifts up to even 6 months before, but this was a couple months before. But it's the same energy, because the fourth house is the domestic life and the home, and the third house is neighborhood. So a change of neighborhood, or a change in your domestic life connected to siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews in some way. And maybe some changes in your home life connected to travel and travel opportunities as well. And then in April of 2024, total solar fire eclipse in the 11th, third house, amplifying that extraordinary energy of worldly success amplification connected to marketing, selling, teaching, learning, online, social media, websites, all the social media platforms. That's a great expansion of that energy. Well, my YouTube channel just like really took off, and I just hit 100,000 subscribers. That's exactly what that North Node does for someone like me in the third house. But an expansion of connection to siblings. My sister works for me now. Expansion of connection to travel and aunts and uncles. I did a lot of travel as well. So healing a chironic wound around writing. More writing has happened. I'm writing at Substack. So that was that eclipse to really transform, expand, and heal the third house for you. And now we have, after the purification and initiation of fire, we have a cooling water of Pisces in our second house. Now we still have an energy of expanding, teaching, writing, marketing, selling, travel, communicating, siblings, everyday life. Still have that expansion, that eclipsing of something, make a portal to something new. But the expansion is in the second house. You could say that there's even more financial gain from the third house to be eked out of this. And if you go back to March of 2006 and add a year to 2007, can you see that to be true? So for me, that was the year I wrote a product for tarot.com that they purchased and launched in 2007. And so I was doing the negotiation and writing of an online product for a website, tarot.com, that led to an expansion of my income greatly from royalty income. So I can go back and see the comparison, right? For example, right? So can you go back and see the comparison? So certainly with Saturn wasn't here last time in 2006, stabilizing, steady gains over time, concretizing it, also making sure that you put structures in place to save and retain money, like I incorporated. What else have you been doing, Aquarius, with that Saturn transit through the second house? Now, one more thing about this before I do Pisces, who's never last and never least, is that I would say to you as an Aquarius, you'll never ever again have Pluto witnessing an eclipse like this. I mean, in your eclipse series in your third house, right? Well, you may actually 18 years from now, but it'll be at the very tail end of his journey through Aquarius. So really understand you're carrying a lot of Pluto power. You're authentically empowered. You've got this. No matter what happens, you are on top of it. Mars says a change of job, change of work structures, and Jupiter says money, luck coming off of this eclipse, and maybe fertility and pregnancy for you or your children. All right, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. First things first, you are expanding just like you did in 2004, 5, and 6, the energy of you your second house of money and earnings. This is healing a chironic wound, these eclipses, though, that didn't happen back then. So you want to make more money, increase your focus on your earnings and resources and financial wellness, but you're also able to do that with a healing of a deeper chironic wound around self-worth and money and earnings. And that's been working through your sky 23, 24, 25, not like 2004. That wasn't here. The first eclipse was, of course, activating the third house. Trips, travel, social media, online world, siblings, cousins, uncles, neighbors, neighborhood, money, expansion, growth. 23 to 2024. 2024's total eclipse to 25 tried to radically transform your dietary habits, style, facial appearance, teeth, and things to do with your money, savings, earnings, and resources. Certainly, this energy that has been playing out here is intense because it's pure fire, and it can really shift your relationship to money in a profound way, as Chiron himself was eclipsed at 19 Aries. You'll never have a view of money the same way ever again. Something has changed here. Your resources, earnings, dietary style, habits, facial appearance are all under massive, explosive change. Now, the eclipse that we're having at this time, March the 29th, somewhat similar to March of 2006, opens up a portal to you. Your identity is changing as you also change your connection to your facial appearance, your dietary style, your financial resources, your values, your havingness. And as you reassess that and expand that and destined change occurs there, you also are able to really expand your footprint. I am what? I am successful, wealthy, worthy, smart, intelligent, capable. Change your status. I am blank, because the North Node is expanding the destined worldly ways that you can identify as a Piscean creature on planet Earth. Mars is the owner of the second house, squaring from the fifth. Your children and your relationship to your children is in the mix, or your sex life and your romantic partner. Now, this is a kind of eclipse where there could be some stress with one of your children coming off of this eclipse, but you're looking at a new expanded sense of identity and self-worth. And for example, one of your children needs financial help in the months after this eclipse or even before, and you're stressed out about it, or your love partner, romantic partner. Also, a romantic partner who's not a mate could fracture from this eclipse because you have a new sense of self-worth, and it may fracture over monetary issues, but it doesn't matter. It was not meant to last. This eclipse has Jupiter, Lord of you, in the fourth house, indicating luck and prosperity and bounty from the home as you increase your money, your revenue, and your earnings, and expand your sense of I am worthy. I've got a big bowl open, alms for the rich. Give it to me, universe. Pisces, this is one of those eclipse cycles because of Jupiter's involvement, blessing you. Sort of, you're ruled by Jupiter, right? Jupiter flows to the money house and blesses you and says, how can I help expand the way resources are coming to you, that you're able to create your financial resources and not be in a place of being the beggar, so to speak, right? So Jupiter could still bring you a new home if you haven't had a new home yet. He leaves as part of your chart, by the way, in June 9th. And by the way, if you have children, Jupiter will go through your fifth house. And if you're young enough, you can get pregnant, or your partner. But if you have children, your children can make children. Yes, grandparents coming. So that's June 9th out a year. We'll be doing a big video on Jupiter's ingress June the 9th into Cancer, because it's a very important time frame for you, especially. Well, thank you for listening. Check out the much longer video, please, that I've already done. It can really help you dive into other aspects of this eclipse. I will pin the longer video put out 3 weeks ago to the comments and in the description box under the More button. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the button for bell for notifications. And oh my God, go love up Monday's video. It's like a rock going to the bottom of the ocean. You guys don't like Mercury Kazimis. Every time I've ever put a Mercury Kazimi video out, Mercury videos in general, since I've been doing this channel for 5 years, they never do well. Nobody cares about Mercury. Poor Mercury. All righty. I'm going. Ciao, guys. Thank you for I know I'm an auctioneer today. I wanted to get it out for you. I'm on a limited time span of things I have to get done this week, so I wanted to make sure you got it. All right. Take care. That was the eclipse update. Ciao, ciao.